YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, and we are back with another Heir's faction focus. This time we'll be talking about the Suebi. The Suebi have had some changes made to them throughout the history of the game, and it's kind of been up and down for them one way or the other. At some points they were a pretty fun faction, almost strong kind of, and then at other points they've just been absolute dog crap. And right now I'm not really sure where they're at. They're a little better, but they're still a very rickety faction in most senses. But they're a fun one to play. They do have a very good general skill here with Ariovistus, which is Pride and Fast Charge. I believe Pride increases their armor piercing damage, and Fast Charge kind of goes in phases. At first it just makes them faster, and then it increases their charge bonus, and then it does something else, I don't remember. But very good unit abilities if you use them properly. In fact, in a couple of patches ago, I haven't tested it since, but you could get like a Wodenaz spear unit, use Pride and a couple other things on it, they would almost beat a Roman legionary cohort. Almost. Not quite, but impressive for a spear unit, just to give you an idea of how good those general abilities can be if used properly. So, what would I say the Suebi are good for? Well, they're good for scaring enemy factions, basically. And then you combine that with the strong Ariovistus general abilities that you get here, and they can potentially be dangerous, but they are very fragile in certain ways. Let's talk through it. As a general, you get to choose between a Wodenaz Spear, a Noble Rider, or a Sword Master. As far as melee infantry, they have Club Levy, Bloodsworn, Wolf Warriors, Berserkers, and Sword Masters. These three units here, Club Levy, Bloodsworn, and Wolf Warriors, are all club units, and their weapon damage is split between armor piercing and normal. So they have good armor piercing attack, but relatively low attack in general, and they're going to be relatively low armor in general. So they're going to be very vulnerable to missiles. They will, however, Wolf Warriors, for instance, have the Headhunt ability, which makes them a little dangerous because that'll jack up their melee attack and morale for a little while. And so scare everyone too. So that's what makes these Wolf Warriors pretty decent, is they scare enemy units, and combined with that flanking penalties, that can become pretty dangerous. Bloodsworn, some people like to upgrade these guys and bring them. I don't really find a lot of use for them just because their armor is so low and their health is pretty low. Their base morale is pretty good actually for such a cheap unit, and with some upgrades their melee attack's not even that bad, but I just find these guys to be too unreliable. Club Levy are pretty much worthless. Berserkers are a very strong unit and can beast their way through swords, and most units, except for the front of pikes, of course. The problem is their cost. They're expensive, and they come few in numbers, and they are very much vulnerable to missiles. So you got to keep these guys away from cav and missiles because that is their bane. But they have a 20 bonus versus infantry. That is brutal. If you can get them into enemy infantry clean with a nice charge and stuff, which their charge bonus is 51, they're again a very powerful unit. They have access to Headhunt as well, and then they have this Berserk mode here, which makes them uncontrollable, but they just pretty much go crazy, and they scare everyone as well. Sword Masters are just kind of the most stable sword unit that Suebi have to offer. They're a good sword unit, but they're expensive, and they're not all that great for the price, but they're like one of the few sword units that actually comes with an armor and shield and stuff for the Suebi. So if you need to add some stable backbone to your melee force, they're the guys to count on. However, I like to do it a different way, and I'll explain that. So they have access as far as spears to Spear Levy, Spear Brothers, which, aren't bad for the price, and then Night Hunters, which are guerrilla deployable, which means they can deploy anywhere on the map as a spear unit, which is pretty interesting. And they've got pretty decent stats for a spear unit as well, but they're expensive because of that guerrilla deployment. And their ability to have this stock here too. I thought they had the stock mode. Yeah, right here. Which means they can run unhidden pretty well. And then you have Wodenaz Spears. Wodenaz Spears are actually one of the few redeeming qualities of the Suebi in my mind. These are some pretty sturdy spears. With a good attack, and then with the bonus versus cav, and then they also have this, which is the Expert Charge Defense. They have a good charge bonus of their own, but this kind of helps them do well against cav charges and enemy infantry charges, better than most spears. And their attack and weapon damage is pretty darn good for a spear unit, and they boast good melee defense, decent armor, not very good, decent health, but very good morale. And they have the Encourage ability, which supports local units with a morale radius, basically. So they're a very useful unit in my opinion, and I generally like to put my general in a Woden-ass spear. Generally like to put my general there. Yeah, stupid pun. Didn't even intend that one. Germanic slingers, cheap but crappy. Longbow hunters, cheap and crappy, both. Not good for much. Longbow hunters were kind of good at some points in the game. Right now they're not. And then you have, I mean, their armor piercing's bad. Their attack isn't very good. Their range is bad. There's just not anything good about these guys, I don't think. They can snipe. They can fire while hidden. But a lot of good that's going to do you, because how many units aren't going to see you from 125 range? Yeah, don't get it. They need to increase the range or armor piercing or both or something about these guys. They also have the stalk ability. But again, I just don't see these guys being worth it. It's just kind of a weird deal. They also have access to these Germanic Youth, which is their only skirmisher unit. They're not very resistant to missiles. So this is why the Suebi are weak, right here. They're very weak with missiles, and they're weak to missiles. So you don't have a lot of defense against missiles. So a lot of times when I bring the Suebi, I play pretty aggressive. And it's because if you sit back, you're going to get shredded by enemy missiles. Not a good thing. They have access to Germanic Scout Riders, which for the price are actually very good cavalry. And then you have Noble Riders, which are a very potent cavalry as well. Melee cav, good bonus versus infantry. They have expert charge defense and frenzied charge, which actually makes them pretty dangerous to shock cavalry. And then you've, I mean, they're just a good unit. As far as artillery, same old stuff. Let's go take a look at a replay with the Suebi. Let's see if I can find this one. Nope. Nope. This one right here. So I played against Macedon as a Suebi, which is a bit risky because pikes can be very difficult for barbarian factions to break. And if you can't break them, you are going to get massacred on the front of them. So my opponent brought a line of thorax pikes, backed up by 4 Cretan archers, 1 more levy pikemen, 2 2 Aspis companion, and I believe 3 companion cavalry. So my opponent has a pretty formidable army here as far as the Suebi are concerned. It is on the Carthago map, and one of the first things that I like to do on this map is get to the top of the hill and assess the situation. So you've got to get your men over the top of the hill to see the enemy army. And then that usually gives me the idea of whether or not I want to continue to push to the top of the hill with my infantry or pull back. So I love line of sight in Rome 2. I wish they would have done this in like Empire and Napoleon Total War. This would have been so cool. And immediately I'm assailed by companion cavalry, which gets a nice charge. And I'm also engaged with Aspis companion cav. I go ahead and charge into this Thessalian cav. I thought it was a companion cav earlier, it was not. And then I'm going to immediately run my Woden-ass spears to engage the enemy general and to reinforce this cav fight, because I will lose the cav fight if I don't reinforce. And then I got a nice charge on his Aspis companion cav here with my Noble Riders. But that Aspis is a strong unit, and I'm going to reinforce. And again, here comes my Woden-ass spears. And of course, I'm going to hit the, I just hit the cavalry counter tactics here, so that my guys immediately jump up to 75 bonus versus cav, and pretty quickly put an end to quite a few Macedonian cavalrymen. But my opponent does have his Cretan archers on station now, and it's going to get dangerous for me. He immediately fires a volley off into my wolf warriors and kills almost half of them. And you can see them here. Archers are extremely dangerous to Suebi infantry. So we're slingers. You have to be aware of both. And this cav fight's risky because I can't support it with his infantry, with my infantry, but neither really can my opponent. His pikemen are not maneuverable enough, and if they try and support it, they're going to get split up and destroyed. I went ahead and pulled my general back a little bit, and this fight's going to last for a while longer, but I should win it. My opponent's going to take Pyrrhic losses to his cavalry, and I already have a cav unit free, kind of assaulting some of his mercenary Cretan archers. Just have to be careful because he's repositioning some of his pikemen. Oh, I thought they were thorax pikemen, just standard pikemen, but still very dangerous to a barbarian tribe. So a lot of my Noble Riders did get pretty whacked up by the Macedonian cav, but I mean the Macedonian cav is quite good, and for the price, I thought my cav did pretty well actually to stay there long enough in order for my spearmen to come and mop up the rest of the fight. And here I just pulled this damaged cav unit out. I want to let my spears finish this. Here my opponent tries to reinforce with pikes. It's just not going to work very well because pikes aren't very offensive. They're not very aggressive. They can't get in and create a lot of kills quickly. Generally, they only get a lot of kills when you charge them head on. So yeah, look, my cavalry's splitting up now, heading to the flanks. You can see 3 of my Noble Riders now at the flanks.
which means my opponent has to start to spear box. And that's what I want. All I need to do is just finish off his cav, and then I'm going to let my Germanic Youths go in. And I'm actually going to start that right now, actually. He does escape right here with the companion cav, and I was worried he was going to run straight down to my Germanic Youths, which is why I left these 2 units behind. But he doesn't. He comes back into this cav fight, and so I go ahead and just commit my guys and try and finish it. His cavalry at this point is so dead that he's going to have a hard time doing anything about mine. So my Germanic Youths now are going to have the opportunity to destroy his pikemen. It is kind of a weird angle. It's not a bad angle, but it's weird. It doesn't let my men kind of get quite as clean at kills as I'd like. And I'm firing head-on, which is not necessary. Actually, I probably could have gotten closer, too. You don't want to fire from long range. You get more kills at point blank. I'm just still being a little bit wary of his troops over here. And his cavalry is now almost entirely dead. He's got 20 men left with this Aspis companion cav, so I'm going to surround it, make sure it can't escape. I'm going to bring my general in. All the while, my Germanic Youths are taking their toll on his pikemen. My opponent's not real happy about this, but to be honest, I'm not real happy with the number of kills I'm getting with these pikemen. With these skirmishers. It's not as good as I hoped, but it is weakening his pike line and making it difficult for his men to continue the fight. But his Cretan archers are dangerous, and as you can see, they're killing my Germanic Youths. So I've got to put pressure on them with my own cav units, but he's pushed me back with his archer fire. Yep, so his Aspis companion cav is dead, and I can now retreat what units I have left away from these pikemen and let my skirmishers continue to hammer them with javelins. So the javelins are basically meant as an anti-infantry unit, and that's what I'm using them for right now. And my opponent is paying the price. He's losing a good number of pikemen, but he's not losing a ton of them. I need to get rid of his Cretan archers to really have any chance for success, so I'm going to pull my cavalry back in. And again, just keep assailing him with my Germanic Youths and retreating when he pushes me. And as I retreat when he fires his archers, he ends up just wasting some ammo. And I just really want my opponent to have to defend his archers from multiple directions, because this is going to create the most advantageous situation for me. Because right now he's going to have a tricky time defending them. And when his pikes get left alone like this too, again, it makes them easy targets for my Germanic Youths, which are running fairly low on ammunition at this point, so I'm going to move them up, try and get them close, and let them take as many shots as they can. And for the point-blank range, they're going to be pretty deadly. So just let my Germanic Youths empty out the rest of their ammo. We pretty much destroy this pike unit. And again, it's just a matter of weakening them as much as possible so that the fight later on will be easier for my men, because I'm going to have to be able to outflank him. He charges forward with his pikemen out of formation, which is a fairly smart idea to try and get me, but I'm going to pull back. His pikemen aren't fast enough to keep up. His archers are actually shooting my horsemen over here and doing quite well. Rout them. So I'm running low on horse units, and then I realized how close my general was to his archers, and I was like, that was smart, and right there my general just gets shot to death. So my general is gone now too, which is brilliant. Always what you want to do when you're playing with the barbarian faction is get your general shot. Yeah. So that's going to hurt my men's morale, but his morale is also wavering pretty badly. These 2 pike units are about to rout. This one does. And remember that my wolf warriors scare units. He no longer has his general either. And I do still have this noble rider, and so I'm going to start putting pressure on his archers, and while his archers are under pressure, this is my chance to move up my infantry. So you can see me putting together the attack here. See my cavalry here pressuring his archers. All I need is a gap. See, he wants to fill this gap, so I'm going to go around, and I'm just going to keep creating a gap here. And all the while, his archers kind of have to keep running, and while they're running, they can't fire. That's the important thing. And right here, his men are not in position, so I go ahead and charge the gap. His pikemen aren't going to be in real good shape to stop me, and I just click an attack order while I was still in the gap and move on to his Cretan archers. And his pikemen are going to have a hard time dealing with my horsemen quick enough. Now, they do deal with them. They kill a fair number of them. But this unit starts to rout because the scare effect for my wolf warriors, look at this, look at the scare effect, causes these men to waver. They're outflanked with wolf warriors. And you can see that the morale effect is going to basically win me the battle at this point. It's extremely strong. In fact, my wolf warriors don't even end up having to engage his pikemen. They simply rout from the scare effect and the army losses. So rather than fight wolf warriors, why not run? But no, good game to my opponent. He played well, and it was a tough battle, but in the end I was just able to get the advantage there. So that's a little look at the Suebi, and it's an interesting matchup for the Suebi against Macedon. Neither one of them are power factions, but the Macedonians do have pikes, and again, that can be challenging to overcome with barbarian units as they get massacred on pikes from the head-on scenario. Let's go back here. So the Suebi are fun to play against other barbarian factions. I would recommend if you're going to use them against any faction, make good use of their scare ability. Be very careful of cav-heavy factions with the Suebi, although if you are going to deal with them, Wodenaz spears are pretty good. Be wary of the step factions with the Suebi, as you don't have any good units to skirmish back with them, and your men are going to be extremely vulnerable to missiles. So the step factions are pretty much the bane of the Suebi, in my opinion. Be careful of them. In any case, hope you all enjoyed it. Heir of Carthage, signing off for now.